Okay, so here I am about to do something different, something a little new. It's a structure breakdown again, which I love doing, but this time I'm doing the structure breakdown of an entire season of a show. And I figured what better show to pick than the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, which came out on Netflix last summer. Now I'm sure you're thinking, okay, an entire season structure? What do you mean by that? Well, I mean, if you laid out a season of any show, you could see the structure based on the storylines and how it progresses. It's no different than just the structure of a full script or the structure of even an episode. You could take the structure of a season and just break it down the same way you'd break down an episode of a show or an actual film, a screenplay or whatnot. And just over here is a little something from this training program that I'm working on still right now, but this is kind of like what the 3-act structure kind of looks like. And these are just what I call these sequences. So I'm working on this program that I call simple screenplay structure. And, it's similar to other structure training things like Save the Cat or whatever. But I'm just looking at how you would break it down, just showing you here and how this would work for an entire season. And it's the same, similar kind of way. I mean, you wouldn't break down the season and call them acts, but for the purpose of how I'm doing this, I call them acts, even though the only real acts are in each episode itself. But this is my actual breakdown of the first season of Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. So the Act 1 parts are just there. I don't really need it's not like I'm saying that the first season, first episode or two is Act 1. It's just how I'm using that to help break it down. So here we go. See, so Act 1. I gotta stop saying that already. So we're in the first episode, and begin all the same. And I call this first sequence the introduction because it's all about introducing the world and the characters and the story. So it opens with Sigourney Weaver telling us about Thra, a new world, another time, all that stuff. And she tells us that the Skeksis are draining the Crystal of Truth, and this is the crystal that they kind of bamboozled Aughra out of by giving her an orrery or something they call it. And then we meet the three main characters, Rian, Deet, and Bria, and we learn about them. We kind of learn that they're pros and cons, who they are as a character. Like Rian wants to be a warrior or a great hero, but he fools around too much. Bria is endlessly searching for answers, and that causes her to... She creates much trouble for herself and her family due to her constant search for knowledge. And in this first episode, she decides to research the Skeksis due to her mistrust over this twinning or tinning event that happens where people have to give the Skeksis like gifts or whatnot, and Bria didn't like that. And then Deet, she's like a Gelfling that has a deep connection to the actual nature and to the world, to Thra itself. And the Sanctuary Tree tells Deet about the Darkening, which is this evil that's been taking over the land of Thra due to the Skeksis mistreating of the Crystal of Truth. So that's kind of the introduction. That's the first part of the first episode, and then near the end of the episode, the exciting incident occurs. And that's when Rian witnesses the Skeksis drain the essence from his girlfriend Mira. So he witnesses this, and he finally sees the Skeksis for what they truly are. Because at this point, all the Gelflings of the land look up to the Skeksis, and they basically think that they're their kings or their queens or their gods or whatever. And a lot of people just blindly follow the Skeksis and never really bother to like look into what they're all about until Bria starts doing that. So this is the next sequence. So this is sequence 2, the inciting incident. That's near the end of episode 1. So now we're around episode 2, and I call this sequence the Exposition because the section's mainly about just giving information to everybody. Like the audience needs to know things, and these are things that we need to know. And Agra, they introduce Agra in the second episode, and Agra is an important expository character. Her like main role in the entire show is to just give us information, and she's like the mentor character. She's like the Obi-Wan character, if you will. Okay, so she awakens after years of being asleep due to the calamity of the darkening, but she was asleep because of the orrery that the Skeksis gave her. Basically put her into a state of comatose almost for like years and years and years. So while she was asleep, the Skeksis were destroying slowly draining the crystal of truth, which used to be hers. So while she was asleep, they were corrupting. That's the word I was trying to find. Corrupting basically the land and Thra. Now Deet has her mission to save Thra from the darkening. And at this time, let's see, yeah, Rian's kind of like on the run right now because he witnessed what happened with Mira, and he's basically a wanted quote-unquote felon now. Not felon, but you know what I mean. So Deet is on her mission to save Thra from the darkening. Along the way, she meets Hup, a brave podling, who saves her from an Aratham. I think it was an Aratham that was chasing after us. So they go to Harar together because she's going to Harar to talk to the Almadra and to tell her about the darkening and all that stuff. And this is the next section, the next sequence I call the obstacles, because it's the part of the story where the protagonists, because there's 3 protagonists, there's Rian, Deet, and Bria. They're all like on a mission now, but they are held back either by their own hesitations or their own issues or obstacles that are in their way. They're not letting them go forward. And so Bria goes to see Elder Kadia about the Skeksis, but Elder Kadia decides that he wants to erase her memory because he doesn't like what she's asking, and she says that she shouldn't know these things and whatnot. He's basically like, you're a young Gelfling, you don't need to know the truth behind the Skeksis, so I'm going to erase your memory. But then she's wise to what's going on, so she switches the drinks on them and ends up erasing his memory, which causes a huge uproar. But Bria was trying to investigate into this, and then she gets held back by what happens with Elder Kadia. Rian is framed for Mira's death, but he steals Mira's essence from the castle and escapes with the help of his friend. But then he escapes the Skeksis, so he's kind of like they're all trying to uncover the truth. The thing is that's all 3 of them are just trying to search for the truth, the actual truth of the Thra and the world and what's happening with the Skeksis. So he's on the run now, and Deet and Hup visit Stonewood Village, but no one there wants to talk to them, and they're all kind of rude, and Hup gets into a fight, and this is, so that's the end of episode 2. We're in episode 3, and I'm saying that this is episode 3 is like Act 2, beginning of the new world for all the characters, because Dee is out in the world now. She's been underground her entire life, so she's out in this she's on the main upper ground, and she's been underground her whole life. So she actually wears like a thing over her eyes because she can't see very well. She can't see in the daytime because she's not used to it. But Hup defends Deep because people in Stillwater are being so mean to her, and you get thrown in jail. And Reen is now a fugitive, and right, because while Hup is in jail, Reen and Deep cross paths for a second because Reen's trying to like start a fire or something, and then Deep helps her, and then they leave, and then she leaves, and then she ends up figuring out how to save Hup. Meanwhile, Bria is forced into the Order of Lesser Service by her mom, the Almadra, for drugging Elder Kadia and causing an uproar. And Agra, who visited the Skeksis castle to talk about, basically to be like, what have you been doing with this crystal? I've been asleep for like 1,000,000 years, and you've ruined the crystal. And they're like, well, whatever, Agra, we don't like you anymore, go away, and they banish her. So that's the first sequence of Act 2, or Episode 3. So we're now in Episode 4. The journey begins. I call it that just because once these characters are establishing the new world that they're in, the actual journey that they've meant to been going on this whole time begins. I'll go more into the structure, how I break down structure. I'll have a link including below about how I break it down structure in an article I have on my site, and I have an article about this as well on my website along with the video. But here we go. The journey begins. This is the second sequence in Act 2. The journey begins. So Deet frees Hup from jail, basically by dressing herself up in like a bunch of plants and making herself look freaky and flying around because she can fly. Bria uncovers a hidden chamber underneath the throne, the Almadra throne, and learns that the Gelfling hierarchy is always wrong. And she awakens a rock giant named Lore. She does all this with like this special, it's not seed, but it's like chrysalis that unlocks a special moth of some sort. And this moth unlocks a chamber hidden underneath the throne in the Almadra's room. Right, and so Rien is hunted by Skekmal, the hunter, as they call him. He's been sent after Rien now that Rien is a wanted man for the quote-unquote death of Mira. Agra learns that she must restore her connection to Thra just because, she's been out of the loop for so long. And one of the reasons Thra is dying is because she hasn't been around. And Rian's father dies trying to save him from Skekmal. Those little gobbly things that like come up from the ground and eat everybody. He died that way. And we thought that Skekmal was going to die too, but then he escapes last minute and grabs Rian. So that's kind of how that episode ends. So now the big plan. I call the sequence the big plan because the journey's beginning, but they're still working on what to do. What are we going to do? How are we going to continue on? What are we going to do? So I call it the big plan. But someone else could call this section something else. I don't know. Rian is saved from Skeksis by Nia and Gurjin in that pretty sweet saving scene of them in the driving along, and these guys come along and they save them. Bria convinces the Almadra to meet Lore. The Almadra is her mom, just because she believes that Lore has important information about what's happening overall. Deet and Hup infiltrate the Citadel because Deet's trying to get in to talk to the Almadra, but her status as a Groton she's looked down upon a lot by other Gelfling clans. Skeksis start recruiting an army for the new Artham Rebellion, but they're not really recruiting. They're just trying to get more essence. Because once the scientists Skeksis and the Chamberlain figure out how powerful Gelfling essence is, it's like the best essence there is. They want to get more of it because after they kill Mira and drink her essence, they're like, whoa, this essence is like the best kind. So they're trying to just get more essence. So that's the big plan. Now here we are at the midpoint. So the midpoint of any script or any story is always a change of direction. New things happen, new things are revealed. So the midpoint of this entire season would be in episode 5, where when Agra now knows everything that needs to be done, and she summons Rian, Deet, Bria, and some of the other Gelflings to the dream space through dream fasting. They're all dream fasting at the same time. And even though I didn't write some of the information all there, but Celadon is there as well. And Celadon is Bria's power-hungry sister who blindly follows the Skeksis. So Celadon ends up being there, but then Agra sends her off because she's like, "You're not really down with this. We know that you're not really. We still follow the Skeksis, and you're a Gelfling, but we can't trust you." So she basically kicks him out of the dream space, and then Celadon's like, "Well, screw you. I'm gonna arrest Deet because Deet's sitting in the castle right now with her eyes closed," which I didn't get. How could she dream fast? That's one thing I didn't get, was how I thought there had to be other Gelflings around to dream fast with, but Deet was just dream fasting on her own because Hup can't do it. But here they are, they're in the dream space, and this first time that all three mains were together, Rian, Deet, and Bria, even though Rian and Deet met once earlier. Agra reveals to them the Skeksis threat against Thra and rallies the Gelfling to stop them, because this is the midpoint of this entire season is all three Gelflings meeting and realizing they all have the same goal, basically, and they're all going to set out to achieve that goal their own ways. The Almaldra is killed by Skekfire, and the Almaldra is being Celadon's mom, Celadon and Bria's mom, and Celadon basically is like, well, I spelled a word wrong. Her Sleth. Celadon proclaims her Sleth herself as the new Almaldra. So even her mom dying, killed by the Skeksis, she's still like, well, my mom was a traitor, so that's why she died. You'd think Celadon would wake up by now, but no. So the new plan, I call this sequence, or section, the new plan, because what happens in the midpoint always changes the direction of the story, whether it's good or bad. So the Gelflings now need to, like, okay, I don't know what I'm trying to use. The Gelflings need to regroup, that's the word, and go on their own missions, their own ways. So that's why I call this the new plan. Rian convinces paladins to spread the word that the Skeksis are evil, though lots of people refuse to believe them. Celadon renounces the living crown, because whatever Almaldra crown that it was existed, she basically just destroys it, and she's like, well, I'm gonna make my own crown, and she changes into like creepier, dark Skeksis inspired clothing, basically to, like, just show us how evil she really has become, even though she's not really evil, she's just misguided. Rian, Bria, Deet, and Hup travel to the Circle of Suns. That's their new goal now is to go to the Circle of Suns, and then when they're there, they meet a Skeksis named Sekra and his mystic counterpart Ergo, and they learn that the Skeksis and mystics were used to be one. They were one creature, and then they became split by the corruption of the crystal. And one became the evil Skeksis, and the other became the nice, friendly mystics. The Gelflings now must find. They learn the Gelflings must find the dual glaive to help reunite the races. The races of Gelflings. Dean and Rian set out to find the dual glaive. They travel through the Breath of Throb's underground cavern, and they find that because they're on their way to the caves of Garot to find the dual glaive. They find that the caves have been taken over by the Arathim, and the darkening is spreading, and it's everywhere. And creatures are corrupt now, like creatures that used to be nice and docile are being aggressive. So the darkening is spreading. Now we're at the lowest point. So just like there would be a lowest point in a script or the story for the character or whatever, this is the lowest point of the entire season. So Stonewood has become under attack. Not just Stonewood, but other, like when Deet and Rian get to her town, underground town, she finds that her family has been overtaken by the Arathim, and they have those little bugs on their face, which makes them compliant, and they all speak the same way. But Stonewood has become under attack by the Arathim and Ascendancy. We are the Ascendancy, they say. The Sanctuary Tree dies from the darkening, but before it does, it gives Deet the power to remove the darkening. Saladon begs the Skeksis for mercy on Stonewood, but she finally learns how evil they are, and because they literally couldn't give one shit about her, and they never did. And they essentially just throw her in jail, and where she finally is like, wow, okay, I've been so wrong this whole time. I'm such a dumbass. She finally comes around, but it takes, this far in the story for that to happen. So it's a low point, but even though the low point it's not a low point for like the three mains. It's a low point for the whole story. Stonewood is under attack. Her family is under attack. His dad is dead. They don't even really mention if he has a mom or not. I guess she already died. And then Bria, I mentioned, there's a part in here that I forgot to mention that Bria was actually been captured at one point by the hunter. She gets saved, but there's a point where she gets captured, and I forgot to write that in there actually. So the final showdown. This is like the last part of the story where good and evil meet and they battle it out and whatnot, which is what actually happens. Because a lot of films or stories, it isn't always just good and evil. But in this show, it really is basically good versus evil. Like, you just look at that picture, that looks evil, that looks evil. So, we're in the last Act 3, which to me is always the shorter of all 3 acts. So, it's only the last two episodes. Again, this is how I break it down. Someone else who could do this, though I don't really think people really break down entire seasons. They basically just break down, scripts or episodes. But when I first noticed that an entire season is just structured the same way as a film, I was like, that's cool. We should look more into that. So here we go, Act 3, the final showdown. Rian acquires the dual glaive. He issues a call to arms to all Gelflings to meet at Stone and Wood. Skeksis orders an attack on Stone and Wood. So everyone's going to Stone and Wood, basically, for the last battle. The big battle ensues, as I said right here. So Erva, the nice Skeks mystic that's on the Circle of the Suns basically throws himself off the cliff and dies to kill Skekmal the Hunter, because he's like, the most badass of all the Skeksis. Some of the Skeksis are just straight up pussies, and some of them are, and then some of them are Skekmal, who's a badass. The Skekfire and Skeklatch die. Skekfire is a general. Him and Chamberlain never always had arguments, and essentially Chamberlain betrays him because we always knew he would. And Sketchlatch, that really annoying one with the snotty nose, that one died too. I'm glad, because that one was obnoxious as hell. So Skekmal, Skekfire, and Skeklatch die in the battle, and the rest of the Skeksis retreat back to the castle like a bunch of wimps. So this is all supposed to take place before the Dark Crystal film, and I thought that Skekfire, the general, was still alive in the film. I'm not sure, but here we are in the outroduction. I call it the outroduction. It's the last part of the story, where stories are tied up, or the bad guys have gone away, and now it's just all about tying up loose ends and the resolution of the story. So the Gelflings are triumphant. For now, Rain is a hero. Rhea finds the last shard of the crystal in the dual glaive. So a piece of the crystal has been cracked, and now Rhea has it. Deet leaves. She basically just leaves to go off on her own, because she's scared about this new power that she has been given by the Sanctuary Tree, because during the last battle she used it and was just freaked out by how powerful it was. And then the entire season ends with Skektek, the scientist, creating the Gartham, which is a combination of an Aratham and these other guys, people that were staying with them. These two creatures that had their mouths sewn shut. He combined those people, or whatever they are, with Aratham, and created those big, Gartham that were in the film, those big, giant, crustacean-like creatures. But that's my breakdown of the entire season of the Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. The entire season breakdown. So I'm going to share this. I'm going to take this little infographic that I made here, because I put some work into it, and I want to share it, and I want people to find it and read it and do stuff with it. I don't know. I like this whole breaking down entire seasons. I think that's fun. I might do it again. Though I like breaking down scripts more, because it doesn't take as long. But that's my breakdown of the entire Dark Crystal Age of Resistance Season 1. Structurally, that's the breakdown of that season. And again, this is just how I look at it and how I break it down. If you don't agree, let me know. Tell me what you think. I want to hear what people think about things like this. So thanks for watching. That's it for me. Like and subscribe and share. Thank you.